Mr. Stubbe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here. I know that the hour grows late, but each member obviously has important questions and statements we want to make, but thank you for your time today. As this year's tax filing deadline rapidly approaches, Americans should know that the growth and benefits that they have enjoyed since the passage of Tax Cuts and Jobs Act are in peril of going away if President Biden gets his way. The difference between President Trump's tax cuts and President Biden's promised tax increases could not be clearer. President Trump's tax bill dramatically reduced tax rates for Americans at every income level. The TCJA sparked economic growth that dramatically increased the net worth of Americans, especially low-income and middle-income families. In 2018 and 2019, low-income families increased their net worth by 37%, and the net worth of middle-income families skyrocketed by 40%. These low-income families experienced the lowest tax rates they have seen in 40 years. As a result of this, President Trump's historic legislation, more than 6 million people were lifted out of poverty. The TCJA also helped drive a jobs boom that still benefits the economy by slashing the corporate interest rate from 35% to 21%. A study from economists from the National Bureau of Economic Research and the Treasury Department found that the corporate tax reform in the TCJA helped increase domestic investment by about 20% in the 2 years following the law's enactment. These are not just numbers on a page, they have real meaning to real American families. This increased investment leads to jobs, which puts money in Americans' pockets and food on their dinner tables. Despite all the economic growth and prosperity unleashed by President Trump's tax cuts, it seems President Biden seeks to increase taxes on American families, which is especially concerning considering the crushing inflation that we have experienced under his administration. President Biden made no secret of his intentions during the 2020 campaign when he promised tax increases, not cuts. He flat out said, and I quote, "I'm going to get rid of the bulk of Trump's $2 trillion tax cut." The expiration of TCJA is coming soon, and President Biden's promises may come to fruition unless we act. Congress must act to make sure that the TCJA's reforms for both individual and corporate filers are, at the very least, maintained. In particular, we need to protect the 199A small business deduction because small businesses around the country will face a 43.4% federal tax rate unless we act. If we do nothing, it will have a devastating impact on small businesses and the millions of Americans who are employed by these companies. Mr. Irvin, I'll start with you. As an owner of a small business that has benefited from 199A, can you please tell us how these tax provisions have real-world impact for employees and customers?
Thank you for the question. So make it easy. So employees, we're going to have to look at that in particular because, obviously we won't be able to keep everyone if we're going to have that deduction gone. And then we'll have to figure out what, not only, when this deduction, if it's gone, we're also going to, I imagine we would still have the continued rising costs of the rest of doing business because of inflation. The cost of milk, the cost of green coffee, the cost of utilities, which we haven't even brought up. And so we're going to have to analyze, very soon, because that's only about 18, 20 months away, what we're going to do. What is the plan? Who are we going to keep? And then it's how are we going to raise prices? And in my particular part of the world, in my particular part of the country, in West Virginia, our median income isn't extremely high. And most of the businesses that are in my state are small businesses. And they're bringing in incomes that are similar to mine. And they're employing people at the best that they can. So essentially, we'll have to pass off some of the costs. We have to raise our prices. And then if that doesn't work, we would have to close our doors. And that's what we're facing. Not only me, but every small business in America.
You'd have to raise costs, probably, and possibly get rid of employees because of the costs incurred by the raise in the taxes. Senator Graham, I noticed in your testimony that you discuss how all Americans pay corporate taxes. Can you discuss how these hidden taxes affect everyday Americans in their investments, employment opportunities, and consumer choices?
Taxes affect all of them. There's no such thing as a corporation except on a piece of paper. All corporate taxes are paid by consumers, workers, and investors, and 74% of the common stock in America is owned by pension funds, 401ks, IRAs. This conception that there is this mega-rich corporation out there that is not paying its fair share is bunk. Because corporations do not pay taxes. And if people could understand that, and if you could remove the politics from it, you could dramatically improve the economic environment in the country.
Thank you all for being here today, and thank you for your time. I yield back.